Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're plugging into something I really like to call the legal matrix. In our everyday lives, we use words casually, just trusting we know exactly what they mean. But the moment we step into the world of jurisprudence, the philosophy of law, we enter a completely alternative reality. It's this highly structured universe where everyday words suddenly take on entirely different, highly engineered, and honestly, incredibly powerful meanings. And understanding this hidden code, well, that's absolutely crucial. It's the key to understanding how society itself is structured. So let me kick things off with a question that honestly might sound a little bit ridiculous at first. Are you a human being or are you a person? Now, most of us would instantly say, well, I'm both, obviously. But inside the legal matrix, that assumption is about to be completely shattered. Okay, let's dive right into this. Take this central paradox of jurisprudence. All human beings are persons, but all persons are not human beings. It kind of sounds like a riddle, right? But the law actually draws a massive distinction between the biological reality of what you are and the constructed legal reality of who you are. We constantly use these terms interchangeably, but doing that masks an incredible system of legal engineering that literally allows the modern world to function. All right, moving into section 1. Humans versus legal persons. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we first have to completely untangle our biological reality from our constructed legal reality. In pure natural terms, a human being is, well, fundamentally, a biological creature driven by feelings. The American legal philosopher Roscoe Pound actually said a human being is essentially a collection of emotions. Whether you're happy, sad, angry, scared, those are natural states given to us by nature. Basically, if you're breathing, you're a human being. But here's the problem. The law can't regulate pure emotion. It needs something way more concrete to build a whole society upon. And this brilliantly illustrates the shift. To the law, a person is definitely not a collection of emotions. Instead, a person is a collection of interests. As the jurist John Salmon defined it, a person is any being whom the law regards as capable of rights and duties. It's all about legal capacity. So your social, economic, or political interests are recognized and personified into a personality. And here's the real kicker. Because this personality is assigned by the law and not by biology, the law can grant this personhood to things that aren't human at all. No way, right? But it's true.
Which brings us right to section 2, birth of the legal person.
So, if the law has this, magic ability to turn a collection of interests into a person, how does it handle human organizations? Let's compare a club to a firm. A club is basically an association of people for a beneficial purpose, like your local sports club, but it's not for profit. Crucially here, a member of a club is not the agent of other members, and the club doesn't have a distinct legal existence separate from the people in it. Now step up to a firm or a partnership. This one is for profit, and every partner acts as an agent for the others. But legally speaking, the firm still has no independent existence apart from its members. It's really just a convenient shorthand name for the partners. Let's move to the next level and see how this builds into something much more powerful. Imagine the contrast between a standard firm and an incorporated company. In a firm, the partners have unlimited liability. Literally, if the firm goes bust, they go bust. And if the partners change, the whole firm dissolves. But a company? It's a completely separate legal entity from its members. Now, a company can't just spring into existence because people agree to it. It absolutely must be registered and recognized by the state. This is the absolute magic of incorporation. By incorporating, a brand new, fictitious legal person is born out of thin air. It has an entirely independent legal existence. It has its own name, and its property is totally distinct from the private property of its shareholders. It even enjoys perpetual succession, meaning the human members might come and go, they might even die, but the corporation, it goes on forever. It can enter contracts, and it can sue or be sued in its own name. The law has essentially created a new, immoral person. Let's jump into section 3, the corporate personality theories. Back in the 19th century, a bunch of brilliant German philosophers fiercely debated how we should even view this constructed reality. First up, we have the fiction theory, championed by Savigny. He argued that only natural humans are truly real. A corporation, he said, is purely an artificial, fictitious being. It literally exists only in the contemplation of the law. Because it's basically just a legal hallucination, it doesn't have a real mind, it has no real will, and no actual ability to act on its own. It can only do things through its human agents. It's a highly practical, but entirely fabricated tool. But then, in walks Otto von Guericke. Guericke completely rejected the idea that a corporation was just some handy legal fiction.
He developed what's known as the realist theory, and he argued that human beings actually aren't the only real entities in the world.
Now, what's really interesting about this is his bold claim. The group has a real mind, a real will, and a real power of action. He genuinely believed that when humans group together, they form a living organism. Just like a nation or a university has a distinct character and its own will, so does a corporation. To Gierke, it's not a fiction at all. It's a social reality that the law is simply recognizing, not inventing.
And there were a couple of other fascinating lenses to view this through, too. The jurist Brinz offered the purpose theory, arguing that sometimes we don't even need a person at all. Sometimes the law just assigns property to a specific purpose, like a charitable trust. He called it subjectless property. Then you've got the bracket theory by Ithering. He said that only human members truly have rights, but to avoid the absolute nightmare of listing every single shareholder in a lawsuit, the law just slaps a convenient bracket around them and slaps a corporate name on it.
Okay, Section 4, rights, duties, and wrongs. So what regulates how all these natural and corporate persons actually interact? What's the invisible glue holding the whole legal matrix together? Think of it kind of like the evolution of a growing orange tree. A right doesn't just spontaneously pop into existence. It starts as a seed, a simple natural interest, like the basic human drive for survival, or a financial interest. But how does that tiny little seed grow into a fully mature, fruit-bearing tree that the law will actively protect? Well, it follows a very specific evolution. First, it begins with an interest. Then, when someone actively strives to protect that interest, it forms an intention. That intention gets backed by will. And finally, that will manifests into a physical act. When an organized society, or the state, identifies, tests, and ultimately recognizes that interest as something worth protecting because, it's not against public policy, it blossoms into a full-fledged legal right. It becomes, as the jurist Ihering called it, a legally protected interest. So the crucial point here is that a right absolutely does not exist in a vacuum. It's part of a relationship. If you have a legally protected right, someone else automatically has a legal duty. Salmond actually tells us that duties and rights are strict correlatives. You literally cannot have one without the other. If the law gives you the right to own a piece of property, it simultaneously places a negative duty on the rest of the entire world not to trespass on it. They are two sides of the exact same coin. But what happens when that relationship breaks down? This is exactly where we define a wrong. A wrong is an act contrary to the rule of right and justice. Specifically, the commission of a wrong is the breach of a legal duty. Now, the law makes a really strict distinction here. A legal wrong is not necessarily a moral wrong. You might do something morally reprehensible that isn't actually illegal. Or conversely, you might break a strict legal rule without doing anything morally evil. And this brings us to a final thought. A right is protected, a duty is owed. But when does a simple, everyday action cross the line into a legal wrong? Imagine a guy navigating busy traffic on a scooter, maybe distracted, talking on his phone. In the legal matrix, negligence isn't just about making a silly mistake. It's the specific breach of a legal duty to exercise care, resulting in consequential damages to someone else's protected rights. So the next time you step out your front door, ask yourself, are you just a human being walking down the street, or are you a legal person wrapped in an invisible, powerful web of rights, duties, and potential wrongs?